The Galactic Council chamber gleamed like a cathedral built for gods who mistook ceremony for wisdom. Hundreds of species filled the tiers, their voices weaving into a constant low hum of self-importance. At the center sat the human delegation, 3 individuals in black formal uniforms, motionless, silent. Their presence, as always, drew a peculiar tension. Humanity was respected, yes, but in the same way one might respect a sleeping predator, so long as it stayed asleep. Ambassador Eleanor Voss spoke only when called upon. Her voice was calm, precise, and measured. To the council, it was a melody of restraint, soothing to some, infuriating to others. She represented the species that had once fought off invasions without demanding conquest in return. The same species that built fleets and then dismantled them once peace was declared. To most of the council, such behavior was a mystery wrapped in arrogance. They called it courteous mode, a phrase born from media pundits who believed humans had tamed themselves into obedience. As the session began, High Consul Varlek took the floor, his scaled form shifting with smug confidence. Ambassador Voss, he began, his tone laced with mock respect. The Council has concerns regarding your planet's new orbital defense network. Such developments suggest an unease with your neighbors. Would humanity care to explain this display of paranoia? The chamber rippled with murmurs. Eleanor rose slowly, her expression composed. Defense, Consul, is not paranoia. It is preparation. Earth has learned to hope for peace while preparing for worse. Varlek smiled thinly. And yet you continue to arm yourselves while preaching cooperation. How curious that the most polite species remains the most heavily fortified. Her eyes met his across the hall. Courtesy, she said softly, is not submission. It is discipline. We do not point weapons at our allies, but we remember history too well to disarm before strangers. Laughter followed, quiet, derisive, the kind shared by those certain of their superiority. Varlek's voice carried over it. History, Ambassador? You speak as though you expect betrayal. Eleanor did not blink. We do not expect it. We simply no longer ignore it when we see it. The chamber quieted. Varlek leaned back, irritated by her refusal to play into his theatrics. Perhaps humanity should learn to trust the Council's governance. Our collective wisdom maintains peace across hundreds of worlds. Earth's isolationist tendencies appear outdated. The word outdated hung in the air like a challenge. Eleanor adjusted her cuff calmly, then said, If peace here is maintained only because the strong obey the complacent, then perhaps it is not peace, merely pause. A ripple of unease swept the delegates. She sat back down, and her aides remained still beside her, disciplined and unreadable. One of them, a young lieutenant, leaned slightly toward her and whispered, They enjoy this. She answered without looking away from the floor. Let them. It costs us nothing to be polite. The meeting dragged on for hours, petty motions, procedural squabbles, hollow speeches from those who mistook sound for strength. Every so often, eyes drifted toward the human table, curious how long their patience would last. Humans didn't raise their voices, didn't interrupt, didn't threaten. They simply listened. To many, that silence looked like weakness. When the final motion was raised, a proposal to audit human military infrastructure under the guise of transparency, the Council erupted in approval before the human ambassador could even stand. Varlek's voice sealed the moment. Passed by majority vote. Earth will comply with inspection within the cycle. Eleanor rose again, the room falling quiet. Her face betrayed no anger, no panic, only something sharper, colder. Noted, she said. Though I advise you, Consul, to consider carefully what you choose to look for. Some things, once seen, cannot be unseen. Varlek smiled, certain he had won. We shall take that under advisement, Ambassador. After all, we appreciate humanity's courtesy. Her reply was nearly a whisper, but it carried through the chamber with unsettling clarity. Let us hope you never see what happens when it ends. As the session adjourned, the alien delegates exchanged amused glances. To them, the human's restraint was a performance of civility, an act too fragile to fear. Only a few noticed how Eleanor's aide hesitated before leaving, glancing once toward the stars visible through the chamber dome. His voice, barely audible, carried a note of dread. "They keep pressing the switch, ma'am." Eleanor's answer was simple, calm as ever. "Then one day, they'll find out it was never a button." And with that, the delegation departed in silence, leaving behind a chamber that mistook poise for surrender and courtesy for chains. The days that followed turned quiet across the council's communication grid, but silence in politics never meant peace. Rumors spread first, unconfirmed whispers of fleet movement near Seoul, official requests for inspection ships to depart immediately, and sudden shifts in trade routes that no one admitted ordering. Humanity issued no public statement. Their embassies remained open, their transmissions polite and punctual. That calm unsettled even their allies. When predators go still, the wise don't call it serenity. The order for inspection arrived under official seal. 23 member worlds contributed ships to the coalition, claiming their presence would ensure fairness. Varlek's name was among the signatories. The fleet departed from the Orion Gate, its commander assuring the council that human transparency will ease all concerns. Some in the chamber believed it. Others feared they were about to cross a line none could erase. Eleanor Voss received the news during a scheduled council session. The message flickered across her datapad mid-debate, encrypted, brief, absolute, inspection fleet entering Seoul perimeter. She did not move. Her hands remained folded atop the table, her gaze distant. The council continued with ceremonial trivialities, unaware that their decree had already begun to unravel something far greater than they understood. An aide leaned closer. "Authorization, ma'am?" Her answer was cold precision. "Negative. Observe only." Around the council, representatives debated humanitarian aid budgets while, light years away, the coalition's first ships breached the exclusion zone. Earth's automated defenses pinged them, issued warnings in 12 galactic languages, and received arrogance in return. When the alien fleet transmitted their override codes, Earth's satellites shut down external communications. The feed to the council chamber continued another few seconds before freezing mid-frame. Varlek noticed the interruption first. "Ambassador Voss," he said with practiced condescension, "it appears your world's network is non-compliant." Eleanor looked up. Her tone held no emotion. "Non-compliance occurs when the terms are unjust." He chuckled. "An interesting philosophy. I hope your commanders share your calm when our fleet ensures your compliance." Every delegate turned toward the human table, expecting fury or protest. None came. Eleanor merely exhaled and whispered something to her aide, so softly that only the nearby microphones caught it. They just turned the key. Moments later, the council's holographic display ignited with sudden life. The feed resumed, not from the inspection fleet, but from their command bridge. Every alien officer on screen looked confused, shouting over alarms. Words like power loss, systems offline, and external override flashed across translation bands. One image froze, the stars outside twisting into a white bloom before the transmission collapsed into static. The council chamber erupted in alarm. Dozens demanded explanations, but none arrived. Long-range sensors showed debris scattering across Seoul's outer orbit. Varlek slammed his clawed hand on the desk. "What did your people do, human?" Eleanor's reply was measured, her voice the calm of inevitability. "We asked them to leave." "That was annihilation!" Varlek shouted. "That was war!" She turned toward him slowly. "No. That was trespass enforcement." The council's security feed began blinking red as other ships, those stationed farther from Seoul, reported catastrophic system failures. Their reactors had been neutralized without explosion, their drives frozen, their weapons dead. The humans had not fired a single broadcasted shot. The system simply went dark. Council analysts scrambled to interpret the data, but the numbers defied known science. The human defense grid responded faster than any recorded artificial intelligence. Every action appeared deliberate, every countermeasure executed in perfect silence. Eleanor stood, gathering her datapad. "You insisted on inspection." Consider it concluded. Varlek's voice trembled between outrage and fear. You can't expect us to believe. You asked to see what lies beneath courtesy. She interrupted. You're watching it unfold. The chamber fell into stunned quiet. No one moved. Even Varlek's sneer faltered as emergency reports flooded in from across the fleet. No survivors, no signals, no retaliation. Just absence. Eleanor's aide received a coded update and passed it to her. She read it once, nodded slightly, and turned toward the exit. Varlek's final words followed her through the silence. You've doomed yourselves. She didn't look back. No, she said, voice steady. We reminded you we're human. By the time she left the hall, the council's display screens all flickered simultaneously. A single message replaced the noise, * courtesy suspended. Communication pending review, *. No one spoke after that. They simply watched as the galaxy's most polite species ended their lesson in silence. Across the council's central command grid, thousands of data feeds erupted into chaos. Fleets stationed near Sol went dark within seconds, their transmissions cut midward. Analysts tried to re-establish links, flooding the network with requests, but every attempt returned the same response: connection refused by origin. Panic rippled through the chamber as realization settled. Earth had not been caught off guard. It had been waiting. Reports poured in. Autonomous ships of human design were appearing across the system. No insignias, no call signs, no comms. They moved in coordinated silence, intercepting any vessel that attempted to flee. The Coalition's most advanced dreadnoughts vanished from sensors entirely, replaced by spreading clouds of molten fragments. None of the destruction matched known weapon profiles. No energy spikes. No visible projectiles. Just sudden disintegration, as if the universe had decided certain ships no longer belonged. Varlek's composure cracked. His voice broke over the noise. This is impossible. They cannot disable a fleet of that magnitude. But the data streams disagreed. One by one, the ident tags of every ship near Sol blinked red, then vanished. No explosions reached nearby satellites, just silence. Every camera feed ended the same way, a sudden white flash and then black static, like the stars themselves blinked. Eleanor Voss remained seated at her table, eyes fixed on the main display. She hadn't moved since the first signal loss. When a council technician demanded she call her government to stop the attack, she merely said, You asked for transparency. It appears you have it. Council members shouted over one another, calling for emergency resolutions, sanctions, ceasefire protocols, words that carried no weight anymore. Eleanor finally looked up, her tone unwavering. You made this theater public. Billions are watching. Tell them you ordered the invasion first. No one answered. The chamber trembled as a surge of data flooded in, video fragments retrieved from the inspection fleet's black boxes before they went offline. The images played across the central hollow. Human defense platforms, previously thought to be automated mines, had unfolded like metallic petals, revealing weaponry unseen in council registries. A single pulse from one platform reduced a cruiser into vapor. Another sequence showed swarm projectiles, microscopic, self-guided, invisible until impact, ripping through entire formations before vanishing again into nothing. Council generals stared in disbelief. Their entire doctrine, their centuries of warfare, meant nothing against this. Humanity hadn't evolved beyond violence. They had refined it into perfection and hidden it behind politeness. An aide whispered to Varlek that a rescue fleet was mobilizing. Before he could order it forward, the council chamber lights dimmed. Every terminal froze. Across all systems, a phrase appeared simultaneously, translated automatically into every known language. The courteous mode has been disengaged. Dialogue suspended until further notice. The text remained on every display for several seconds, then faded to black. In the darkness, someone muttered, They warned us. Another voice whispered, No, they promised. Eleanor stood, finally breaking the stillness. This is not vengeance, she said quietly. It's containment. The fewer that resist, the fewer that vanish. Her words carried the weight of absolute control, spoken not as threat but fact. Emergency transmissions from fringe colonies began streaming in. Human ships had reached them already, silent, efficient, disabling all weapons systems without firing. No occupation, no broadcasted demands. Just complete neutralization followed by withdrawal. Humanity had moved from defense to enforcement, erasing threats with surgical precision and no emotion. Council intelligence confirmed what many feared: the human fleets hadn't mobilized from Earth. They'd been hidden across dozens of systems, disguised as civilian convoys, ready for activation. The galaxy hadn't realized humanity's reach until it was too late. Varlek slumped into his chair, scales dulling under the harsh light. They were planning this, he whispered. They prepared for centuries. Eleanor met his gaze. We prepared for arrogance. Yours. The council hall descended into stunned silence again, broken only by the hum of the still active hollow grids flickering faintly back to life. Every screen displayed the same haunting image, a human insignia surrounded by a circle of light. Beneath it, 2 words glowed in steady white. And as those words lingered, even the most defiant species understood: they hadn't seen humanity's fury. They had only seen what happened when patience finally expired. Hours passed before the council dared reopen communications. The chamber that once roared with arrogance now echoed with the hollow sound of fear. Delegates whispered, avoiding Eleanor's empty seat as though her presence still lingered. Reports streamed in from the outer sectors, entire task forces wiped out without visible engagement. Not one human casualty reported. No distress calls. No retaliation orders. Only clean, silent efficiency. Every analysis concluded the same: humanity didn't fight for dominance, it fought for finality. A military strategist attempted to brief the council on casualty estimates, but could only stammer through incomplete data. 12 fleets, gone in 7 minutes, he muttered. No explosions, no wreckage larger than a pod. Another voice added. Their weapons didn't leave signatures. It's like they edited reality. The phrase spread through the chamber like a contagion. Edited reality. No one wanted to admit how accurate it felt. Varlek, once commanding and proud, looked like a relic of a collapsed empire. His ornate robes hung heavy as he stood to reclaim control. We must retaliate, he insisted, forcing authority into a trembling voice. They've attacked sovereign forces. The council cannot appear weak. No one answered. Every delegate understood that retaliation meant extinction. For the first time in recorded council history, fear unified the chamber. Each representative quietly ordered fleets to retreat from human borders. Some even sent encrypted apologies to Terran outposts, hoping their gestures would be noticed, even if not acknowledged. Behind closed doors, intelligence divisions attempted to trace how humanity's network operated. The data cores they infiltrated fed them impossible information: looped coordinates, recursive encryption keys, messages that read, access denied by courtesy protocol. Every hack attempt triggered remote system shutdowns across their own servers. Humanity wasn't protecting its systems. It was watching them attempt intrusion. Meanwhile, the galaxy's civilian channels filled with leaked footage. Pieces of the Council's own surveillance showed humanity's retaliation from orbital distance. A single light blooming where an entire fleet once stood. Commentators who once mocked Earth now spoke in hushed tones. They never threatened anyone, one broadcast whispered, because they never needed to. In private chambers, delegates argued over framing the event. Some called it a malfunction. Others tried labeling it a defensive misunderstanding. But the data was irrefutable. The Council had voted for inspection. Humanity had responded with termination. The order of cause and effect was clear, and no spin could erase it. Varlek turned desperate. They've shown us their teeth. We can't let them dictate law through fear. Another delegate replied quietly. It's not fear. It's realization. We thought they held back because they were civilized. They held back because they chose to. When word spread that Earth had shut down all diplomatic frequencies, panic deepened. Every communication attempt returned the same transmission, a calm synthetic voice repeating, asterisk. Dialogue suspended. Courtesy revoked. Await reactivation. Asterisk. The phrasing felt more dreadful than a declaration of war. It wasn't aggression. It was bureaucracy. Cold, methodical, absolute. Leaked intelligence confirmed the worst. Humanity hadn't mobilized new fleets. The ones that acted were pre-existing, decades old, dormant until authorization. The Council finally grasped the horrifying truth: Earth's peace treaties, trade alliances, and diplomacy had all been negotiated under the shadow of dormant superweapons. The polite species never trusted anyone. They simply never needed to show it. A smaller species envoy broke the silence. Perhaps this is their true form. Perhaps the kindness was the disguise. No one disagreed. The Council's entire structure, built on the illusion of superiority, fractured under the weight of that thought. Varlek stared at the blank display where the human seal had once glowed. His voice was barely a whisper now. We mistook control for civility. We mocked restraint while standing on the edge of their mercy. Another delegate murmured. And they turned it off. No resolutions passed that day. The Council simply adjourned without ceremony, each species silently calculating what survival looked like in a galaxy where Earth no longer smiled. The words courteous mode vanished from every record within hours, erased by those who finally understood what it had cost to provoke its end. Months later, the Council chamber remained a hollow monument to arrogance. The ornate banners that once celebrated unity hung faded and untouched. No one sat where humanity once had. The chair stayed empty by unanimous, unspoken consent, a reminder that silence could be more terrifying than any weapon. The galaxy had moved into a new era, one shaped by absence. Human fleets no longer appeared on trade routes or diplomatic networks, yet their shadows stretched across every star. Merchant convoys reported sudden course corrections when entering human-monitored sectors, guided by invisible systems that never announced themselves. Lost ships reappeared, repaired and refueled, with no record of who had helped them. Some captains spoke of voices over short-range comms, calm, synthetic, offering navigational aid without identifying origin. Every account ended with the same phrase before contact ceased, asterisk. Travel safely. Courtesy restored. Asterisk. The Council's intelligence branches dissected each incident, desperate to define what restored meant. They never reached consensus. One faction claimed humanity had reactivated a limited diplomatic protocol, choosing observation over engagement. Another insisted it was a warning that Earth's patience remained conditional. Neither theory brought comfort. Varlek resigned without ceremony, his once grand office stripped of emblems and titles. In his final address, recorded privately, later leaked across systems, he admitted what few dared to voice. We were never negotiating with equals. We were tolerated. His words spread faster than any official broadcast, seeding both reverence and fear across the galaxy. Worlds began altering their military policies. Entire species disarmed orbital fleets near human sectors, citing stability treaties that Earth had never signed. Others erected monuments to the Day of Courtesy Lost, portraying humanity not as conquerors but as divine arbiters who had chosen restraint over domination. For the first time in millennia, the Council functioned in genuine silence. No posturing, no boasts, only precaution. New delegates whispered rumors of covert humanitarian actions attributed to humans. Outlying colonies devastated by famine reported receiving shipments of food and medicine from unidentified drones. Communication beacons rebuilt themselves overnight on war-torn worlds. No signatures, no demands, no messages, just quiet restoration. Every gift ended the same way, a broadcast of 2 words, asterisk. Peace maintained. Asterisk. Eleanor Voss was never seen again. Her name vanished from Council records, yet her image persisted in memory. The younger generation of diplomats studied her final moments in the chamber, analyzing every word for hidden meaning. Some concluded her calm was calculated, others believed it was mourning, for a peace that had died long before the Council realized it. Humanity's last spoken sentence, recorded before severing ties, echoed through history, asterisk. We resume our quiet. Asterisk. That phrase unsettled the galaxy more than any fleet could. It implied choice, not retreat. The understanding that humanity could return whenever it wished, not out of anger but because it decided the universe needed correction again. No empire wanted to test what provocation would awaken that decision. Over time, courteous mode became a forbidden phrase in political circles. To utter it was to invite the memory of humiliation. Yet among civilians it turned mythic. Tales spread of a species that smiled at the stars, offered peace, and punished arrogance with silence. Children of distant worlds grew up hearing bedtime stories about Earth's quiet wrath, warnings disguised as legends. The Council eventually issued one last statement, a ceremonial closure to an event it could never explain. Let it be recorded that humanity withdrew, not in defeat, but in final judgment. Their silence is our reminder. The words etched into the Council's marble dais stood as both apology and prayer. Decades later, deep sensors detected a transmission from Sol, faint and unmistakable. It carried no image, only a human voice speaking in tones of absolute composure, asterisk. Courtesy restored. Observation continues. Asterisk. The signal ended without coordinates, without purpose, but its meaning resonated across every system. The galaxy had learned that humanity's kindness was never weakness. It was mercy, and mercy, once withdrawn, never needed to explain itself.